10 липня працює медіа-центр.
Good morning. It's Thursday, 10th of July. My name is Svetlana Cheparenko. Ukraine Media Center starts its operation. Tonight, the Kyiv has survived another horrific drone and missile attack, but we continue discussing important topics, and now we'll discuss the price in Ukrainian gas stations. Joining us in the studio is Serhii Kuiun, the expert of the fuel market. So, Mr. Serhii, let's start with the euro rate. It has almost achieved 50 hryvnia per euro. So, since we procure the most of the fuel from Europe, did the rate reflect on the prices, and will it continue influencing them? Well, in fact, the currency exchange rate is of definitive importance because it's the import goods, first of all, and secondly, about 50% in the structure of the price accounts for the procurement price. Meanwhile, another 50% is the taxes, including excise tax, which is denominated in euro in Ukraine as well. So respectively, about 80-85% in the structure of the fuel price in Ukraine accounts for currency component. And it's a long existing proportion. Every hryvnia in the currency exchange rate, mostly euro, but mostly dollar, but euro as well, is accounting for 80 kopecks in the price at the gas stations. So as soon as dollar grows from 42 to 43 hryvnias, we can expect another growth in the price of fuel for 80 kopecks. So this is what is added in this text. According to our calculations, about 50 kopecks were added lately. So we cannot say that it accounts for a lot of growth in the price of fuel, but steadily this factor continues influencing the price of fuel, and the main contribution was made by the situation where the war in the Middle East, as a result of which the prices have grown drastically. So the prices that we're observing now, what did influence them mostly? The war in the Middle East or the currency exchange rate fluctuations? Well, what we're observing in July is the best illustration of impossibility to provide any predictions in this market. Well, you keep asking, other journalists keep asking, what's going to happen in a month, in half a year, in a year? And when I hear somebody attempting to model anything like that, it doesn't sound serious to me. Look what happened. Just 1 month has passed. Within this month, the price first has grown from $65 to $75 per barrel. Then it dropped down to 67, and now it's raising up to 70. Meanwhile, everybody was trying to forecast that it's going to go down to $65 or lower. OPEC prices stuff, you know, the OPEC has undertaken a resolution to expand their production, and still the price is growing. So yesterday the quoting was above $70, and all of the procurement prices were sticking to that price. So how come? No one was expecting it, no one was forecasting, no one was predicting it, and definitely it makes corrections to the price very quickly. And as you properly mentioned, the currency factor, I mean, that's a synergy of factors that provides for the scenario that cannot be forecasted. And when the price has dropped down to $67, we were expecting the price to be reverting to the pre-crisis indicators, but now it made a U-turn, and now the procurement prices are growing for oil products. In our monitoring, we keep documenting it every day. The prices are growing, everything is in red, everything is growing. So respectively, talking about short-term perspective, I'm not seeing any possibilities to change this forecast. I mean, the price is not going to drop. The oil price has grown, everything has grown, so I'm not thinking it would continue growing, but it's a fragile balance in the market, I would say. And for us, the way we analyze it, one of the most important indicators is the difference, the spread between the retail and wholesale price. So basically the amount of margin in the gas stations, and it's minimal within the year. This is the indicator that the spread has contracted and there is a potential for price growth. If there is no further growth of prices for the raw oil, I think that the situation will remain there, but there is a high probability that this spread may unfold because nobody's going to subsidize the price. Well, what prevents the gas prices from expanding this spread? Well, the factor that holds us back is the competition. There's a lot of players in the market. The wholesale market within the last year was working without any margin. The companies were balancing, like 1 month they have some profit, then they are in loss, and then they are in zero. It's again another fragile balance because the fuel is abundant on the market. Unfortunately, the consumption is getting smaller, but the price or the amount of fuel is still there. So everybody tries to sell at the best price, even maybe without any margin. And the same applies to retail market. The fuel market has fallen 15% when it comes to light products, 45% when it comes to liquefied gas with the beginning of full-scale invasion. And the number of the gas stations is not getting smaller in our territories. Everybody wants to continue selling. They use all of the methods applicable, both honest and dishonest, taxes, stuff. I mean, this is what the market looks like for the time being. That's the factor that works when the prices are not growing as somebody would like to. But this competition is holding it back because everybody wants to maintain their sales. So, talking about liquefied gas, what's the situation there? What are the fluctuations that you're observing? Well, the liquefied gas demonstrates its autonomy. So if we take a look in retrospective, its price is always coming along, like hand in hand with the diesel and gas fuel, but that's a product with a different structure of consumption. A lot in consumption of the liquefied gas depends on, it's only popular in our countries as automobile fuel, just like in a couple of other countries. But basically, it's the raw material for the chemical industry, using which the industries can process different raw oil products. So the bucket is changing, the demand is changing, and the price to this product is fluctuating as well. We can see it moving now. The gas and diesel have grown a little bit, and for liquefied gas it's not a case. I mean, to a lesser extent anyway. So one way or another, now this product is really having hard times because, well, it's an interesting situation, by the way. Liquefied gas was always for the people who were used to saving on fuel. The government was subsidizing this product for long years. It has a minimum excise tax on it, and this market, I mean, we've now joined a trinity of the biggest consumers of the gas worldwide, and is the most popular in our transport sector. There is no such demand anywhere else in the world for liquefied gas. Last year, the government has rescinded this subsidy, and basically the excise tax became just as big for the liquefied gas as for the regular gasoline, and basically the liquefied gas lost its attractiveness. Well, and what we're seeing on the market is that the state and the consumer has opened another floodgate for cheap movement. The electric vehicles that don't have excise tax, they don't have VATs, that are getting charged during nighttime at the subsidized tariff for the population, and the consumer, the people who were saving on liquefied gas, now they all rush to this new offshore, to this new sector. And now we're seeing the number of electric vehicles growing drastically, not because Ukrainians are so conscious, but because you're getting a car 25 to 30% cheaper than the internal combustion engine equivalent, and on top of that you're having a free fuel 264 or 216 during nighttime. I mean, you're charging your car for free. Unfortunately, this tendency is growing, and the proceeds of the state budgets are falling along with that. I think that within a couple of weeks I will be ready to present our research, and I can say already now that currently the state subsidizes any electric vehicle owner. So during the war, when there are people who need help, we have clear priorities, our defense. Nevertheless, the budget, as it turns out, finds some resources to help this constantly growing army of electric vehicle owners. I think that it's a prospective sector. It needs to be developed, but not through over-subsidizing it. Yes, it's supposed to be like this. There is cheap fuel, but it has nothing to do with the cost of electric vehicles. I mean, these subsidies should stop existing. So the consumption of the liquefied gas is falling, and respectively, this sector is suffering. Well, I would like to ask you about the fuel for the agrarians. It's a hot season now. What is the situation in the agrarian sector? The growth of prices for fuel is really painful for this category of consumers. Well, really, the wholesale prices are on the peak. They have grown with the beginning of the hot phase of the war in Iran. The wholesale prices for diesel fuel have grown 15% proportionally to the oil prices. Then, when the oil price started falling, they fell like 3.5 hryvnia. So basically, there is price growth. I'm not sure to what extent is it critical for them. I'm not thinking it's really critical. We see that the consumption is not so extensive, and I've been for 25 years in this sector, and I remember, those people moaning all the time, like the village is dying out, and somehow the village is becoming the locomotive of our economy, when they were really growing and they're really luscious sectors. But we know that the situation is such that today that the dictate of the consumer in the market is established. Meanwhile, the supplier, they want to sell their product at least at some price. So what I can say, the fuel is abundant, the price is minimal, but we cannot help but notice the objective realities of the global market. Thank you, Mr. Serhii. Let me remind you that we were talking about the situation in the fuel market of Ukraine and the prices in Ukrainian gas stations, and Ukraine Media Center will continue its operation at 12 o'clock. We will have the presentation of the study by Analytical Center, The Business Capital, the successors of Putin, who and how is preparing to the transition of power in Russian Federation. Stay tuned.